Hello, and thank you for joining me today for the best of Sage Intacct for healthcare organizations. My name is Linda Pinion, and I'm going to be your hostess for the next hour. I'm a principal solution consultant with over 11 years here at Sage Intacct. Frequently, I am asked to MC and present content to our customers and prospects, and I'm happy today to bring you a healthcare webinar. This healthcare is based on 5 pillars that we deem to be the best of Sage Intacct. As we look at healthcare organizations, we know that having a financial management system is critical to your success. And in many cases, you are looking for financial information that covers many different areas of your organization. Not only the financial area, you're looking to make sure that you are managing your cost and that you are staying compliant. Many of you already have other applications that you're using today, and those applications are working fine for you, and you've invested time and money in those applications. So it's important that you select a solution that can integrate that data with your current applications. For many organizations today, you may have started out small with maybe 1 or 2 locations or facilities, and you're in growth mode and you're growing and you're expanding to what we call multi-entity. Entity is the same as company or organization to us. And having that information and being able to consolidate it quickly is very important. As I mentioned, this is a financial management solution. However, we know that the operational data is equally as important. So we have the manner in which you can get that operational data in, which will give you that combined view of how your business is tracking, not only from a financial perspective, but from an operational perspective as well. There are a few things that we have learned from our customers and prospects that are impacting healthcare organizations. Perhaps you can align to one or more of these. The first one is really all about doing more with the same amount of resources, or in some cases, possibly less, streamlining your organization. And the way that that can be accomplished today is by utilizing technology and making an investment in technology that can help you really automate and streamline those processes. That's also impacting how you are defining those processes. Today, supplies and services are the prices are rising, so things are costing more. It's taking, in some cases, longer for you to get materials and supplies. So it really is important for you to understand what you have, where it is, and the cost that you are paying for those items. And that allows you to really dig in and look at a complete analysis of all of your cost. As you're looking at investing in technology and streamlining processes, and of course, looking at your cost, what you also want is you want that ability to have the data that you need it when you need it and have it accessible so that you can take action on that data. So it does you no good to find out about something way after the fact. You want to have that information at your fingertips so you can be proactive instead of reactive. As we look at some of those business challenges, we know that many of you may be using Excel as your baseline for all of your reporting and consolidation. Excel has a lot of great capabilities, but the one disadvantage that it does have is that it's really not giving you many times accurate, up-to-date information. It's only as good as the last time you visited it, and it may be outdated and inaccurate because it's something that you're sharing across multiple people. Having that visibility into what is going on when it's happening or even before it's happening, you really don't have when you utilize a product like Excel. You don't have that visibility that you really need. And as you go through your daily activities, you notice that there's a lot of redundancy. There's a lot of handling of paper multiple times. So there's real no automated, streamlined process for you to eliminate some of the steps in those day-to-day activities. As we look to compliance, one of the things that you'll hear today is that Sage Intacct is HIPAA compliant, and that is certainly something that is very important to many healthcare organizations. And you may not be able to meet that compliance today. And of course, as we said earlier, you may already have solutions in place, and they may be working perfectly fine for you. The disadvantage is they're not connected. You don't have that sharing of information. So again, there's a lot of manual processes that you're doing. I'd like to introduce you to a modern cloud financial management solution for healthcare organizations. Sage Intacct has the ability to provide you with the dimensional reporting and dashboards that you need to have access to information. And that's really the key. Many times people will say, well, we just don't have the data. The truth of the matter is we have more data today than we've ever had. The challenge is sometimes you can't get to that data. And Sage Intacct provides you multiple ways to get to the data, utilizing dimensions and account groups. And then we deliver that through our dashboarding solution. As we are pulling this data together, it is a continuous consolidation, which means that you're not waiting for anything to happen overnight. This is all happening real-time, up-to-date information, so you can be assured that when you look at the data, it is data that you can make a business decision against. As we look to meet those C-level initiatives, which we know one of the top initiatives for any controller or CFO is to streamline business processes, we have put that in play. We deliver best practices. We automate. We also use artificial intelligence to help reduce the amount of work that you're doing. We want to take away some of that repetitive work that you're doing. We want to automate that for you. So we're going to deliver those best practices, and then we're also going to give you the flexibility to change those processes to match how you choose to use them. Along the way, we're going to make sure that you are adhering to any of the compliance requirements and delivering full audit trails. All of this is based on a best-in-class cloud platform. And what does that mean? It means that 24/7, 365, as long as you have access to the internet and the proper permissions, you have access to your data. So when things happen that are out of our control, like the pandemic, like the hurricanes and the weather issues that we're having, you can be assured that your data is safe. The Sage Intacct solution footprint is a broad map here, really outlining many of the areas of our solution. If you look to the bottom of the screen, the infrastructure, this is what we as the publishers provide and monitor and are responsible for, and that is to make sure that you have a solution that is reliable, and that's called uptime, and making sure that you have access to your information. If you're interested in knowing what that percentage of uptime is, it is posted on our website. It's usually around 99.289 carried out to 5 decimal places. there is very, very little time that the system is not available to you. And you can check that percentage anytime you choose to from our website. So having the ability to say we are reliable. Second, the security. Everything that you're going to see today can be secured by user through your permissioning. When you set up your users, there's a granular permissioning structure in play. Reports can be permissioned, dashboards can be permissioned. So full security, plus the security on the operational side. So this is the security that we take care of. So making sure that your data is in a safe place, making sure that it's in a secure data center, making sure that we have our processes and our rules defined so that your information is safe, it's backed up. We have disaster recovery um, processes in play. So everything is secure from your side, from our side. The scalability, making sure that you can start out with 2 facilities and grow to unlimited facilities. And then, of course, performance. It's important for you to be able to enter transactions and post transactions, and for those transactions to update immediately, that there isn't any latency and reduction in time for you to see that data in real time. As we go up on this chart, you'll see foundational things. A couple of things to point out here. We are going to deliver the best user interface. We are continuously improving that user interface. You'll see all of the online help. You'll see ways for you to be walked through a process on the screen if you've forgotten how to pay bills and you want to look at a quick snippet. You can see that right at your fingertips. Having the Learning Center, all of our full education, our online help, everything is there to help you along the way. We're also going to provide the best reporting and dashboard so that you have the visibility into your data. And certainly, we've mentioned integration, integrating information in through APIs, automated program interfaces, and being able to do that seamlessly based on a schedule in the background. We have 75% of our customers are integrating 2 or more other solutions into Sage Intacct. So in your case, it might be a billing solution that you want to keep today and you want to integrate that into Sage Intacct. As we go up, we get into the actual applications, the core accounting, and some of our business processes. We'll be looking at many of these along the way today when we get into the software. But just understand that all of these solutions here are integrated. All roads lead to the general ledger. So this is a fully integrated solution. So let's talk a little bit about the 5 pillars that are the best of Sage Intacct for healthcare. The first pillar is dashboards. And when I think of dashboards, I of course think of the dashboard in my car. And just like that dashboard in your car, the dashboards in Sage Intacct allow you to see what's going on in your business as of a certain point in time, because you can filter those dashboards. And you also have access to the details of what's on that dashboard. So when we talk about looking at real-time up-to-date information, that's what the dashboard provides. It's unlimited, so you can have unlimited dashboards. Most of the time, people will create dashboards based on a role, so we call them role-based dashboards. They're designed by you, they're component-driven, so you can have graphs, you can have reports. And the most important thing here is that you can drill down to that source transaction. So you can see the detail behind the numbers on the screen. The next pillar is reporting, and the reporting is so important to Sage Intacct that we have a defined report center. Now, most of what you see on a dashboard is actually coming from the report center, because that's what people want on a dashboard is reporting. We have over 150 predefined reports that are there when you start. So when you implement, you'll start out with about 30 financial reports and 120 on-demand standard reports across the subsystems. So all of those reports are ready to go day one. In addition, you have provision to you a financial report writer and a custom report writer. The financial report writer is something that you will learn to use. You can take those existing reports and copy them and create your own version. What's most important is utilizing our dimensional structure and our account groups to set up the formatting that you want for those statements. Dimensions are your key to having those granular, detailed reports and being able to slice and dice the data on the fly. In addition to that, the custom report writer allows you to create reports across the subsystems, like in accounts receivable or accounts payable. Both of these report writing tools are designed for the business user. The other mention earlier was about operational data, and many times operational data turns into key performance indicators. We'll look at some of those today. In the healthcare industry, it might be around number of caregivers, number of dentists, revenue per patient, per bed, per day. So just understanding that there's operational data that may come to view in the form of a metric or a key performance indicator. We have two advanced reporting tools that you can use. The interactive custom report writer, which allows you to create pivot tables and to have more complex calculations in the columns. And then the interactive visual explorer. And this is a tool that allows you to look at the data in a visual representation. So data visualization is also have the data tell the story. The third pillar is foundation. And while I could have started with this one, I put it in the middle intentionally to say that anything that we are building on, we always want to have a good foundation, whether it's a house or we're building a car. There's the same thing is true with building your financial solution. We wanted to have a great, strong foundation to build on. So this foundation allows you to start out with one entity or company and to grow to unlimited entities. We also offer domestic and global consolidation if that's a function that you need. Again, just a reminder that everything is permissioned and secure. So not only is the data secure, which we take care of, but you are able to secure your reports, your dashboards, and where your users can access data. The dimensions, there are 12 predefined dimensions in Sage Intacct. 7 of those dimensions are delivered with the core product. 5 of them are based on subscription. You'll learn a little bit more about what those look like when we get into the software. And then if you decide that you need more dimensions, you can set up what we call user-defined dimensions, and that is unlimited. So dimensions are a way for you to tag transactions to one or more of those predefined dimensions, and then to report at that granular level. Of course, we've mentioned the ability to be compliant here, so we are able to sign and agree that we are HIPAA compliant and produce that audit trail for you. With a multi-entity or multi-company solution, we have the ability to share some objects, and one of those is the chart of accounts. We have a very modern chart of accounts. It's probably different than what you use today. Our chart of accounts is set up once and then shared across all of the entities. So this eliminates setting up a chart of account structure for each one of your entities and having to maintain them. The same thing is true with the vendor and the customer master. So now you can set up one vendor master, one customer master, and you can share that across all of your entities with the understanding that you can have restrictions. So if by chance one of your entities was not allowed to buy from a particular vendor or supplier, you could restrict them. So you can have restrictions on those vendors and customers. And then the last here is collaborate. And collaborate is the social media layer within Sage Intacct. It's what allows you to talk to other Sage Intacct users within your organization about specific transactions and to self-document that transaction. We'll see that in action on our dashboards. Our fourth pillar is the configurable business process. And this is really about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So many times, as I mentioned earlier, healthcare organizations will have their own billing solution. So billing is usually not one of those solutions that we are solving for with Sage Intacct. We're integrating that data in, which is great news for you because you've made an investment in that other solution and it's working fine. What we want to help you with is really to help you with cost management, and we'll do that through purchasing and accounts payable and spend management, utilizing things like workflow approvals, making sure that we are setting up the right types of transactions, making sure that we are posting those transactions to the right account numbers at the right time. And then if you are someone who is buying material or supplies, stocking those, and then maybe transferring or issuing those out to your different locations, and you want to have full inventory tracking, we can certainly do that. For those types of organizations, inventory is really important. It's important to know what you have. Where is it? So where is it physically located? How much of that do you have on order? So inventory can become an important piece of managing what goes on and what supplies are available at each one of your locations or facilities. And then, of course, we want to make sure that any of this information, whether it's from a cost perspective, an inventory perspective, we want to make sure that we have all the integration buttoned up to any of your EMR solutions. The last pillar is integrations. And again, there's a reason why we are different. We are different because of our model. Our model is called best in class. And best in class means that we are going to be your best financial management solution. That's what we do best. We eat, sleep, breathe financials. There are other solutions like your billing solutions, maybe a customer relationship management solution like a Salesforce or a Sugar CRM. They do what they do best. So Salesforce is going to be the best for customer relationship management. Your billing system is going to be the best solution for you to get your patient billing done. What Intacct is going to be is your best financial. And we're going to take information, financial information from those other solutions and integrate it into our financial engine. That's going to ultimately give you the ability to create whatever reports you need. We do this because of the way we are architected. We provide the ability to do those integrations either automatically or semi-automatic. The difference being, if it's automatic, it's going to be through an API, an automated program interface that's going to be set up on a schedule, unattended, running in the background. It will be seamless. The users will not know. It will happen. Many times happens in the middle of the night. So the data comes over periodically based on that schedule. If it's semi-automatic, and many times we have integrations that are semi-automatic because they don't need to be performed often and because there's not much data that's moving. If that's the case, we can do that through a CSV upload. I call that semi-automatic because someone still is required to execute and to push the button to make that happen. We take advantage of web services when we need to, and we certainly have a large developer community and a developer community site that you are welcome to visit and learn more about integrations. In addition to that, we have a full Sage Intacct marketplace that you can get to from our website. You can learn more about the partners that we are aligned with for those integrations. And by the way, we don't partner with just everyone. We're pretty picky, and we are picky for a reason. We want to make sure that they are providing those integrations and connectors with the same standards that we're providing with our software. And there is a certification process that those marketplace partners go through to make sure that their integrations are going to work and be stable with our solution. So if you want more information about the Sage Intacct Marketplace, you can visit our website, select partner, and then marketplace. You can search by healthcare or by a keyword, and you can find many of the integrations that are already in play. And now what I'd like to do is I'd like to move into software and give you a little closer look. So let's do that. So before I get into going through some of the pillar information that we have just talked about, I want to tell you a little bit about what you're looking at, because there's a lot of information on this screen, and you may have not looked at Sage Intacct before. So just to give you a little feel for what is here, I've logged in to my healthcare environment today as two different users, one as a controller and the other as an employee user. I wanted to do that because I want to show you the difference between those users. They have different permissions, and you'll be able to see that in just a moment. In addition, I will tell you that this is an environment that has multiple entities. And remember, entity is the same thing as company, and you can have as many companies or entities defined as you choose to. So if you look here, I have my locations. Basically, these are all separate entities or separate tax IDs. And I, as the controller, have permission to transact in each one of these entities. I'm not required to log in and log out. So again, making it very friendly and comfortable for me as a user. If I look at my other user, who happens to be Nikki, she's my employee user, you'll notice that her drop down here only has Texas. And that's the difference between having permissions and not having permissions. So Nikki is only permissioned to Texas. That's the only entity that she can transact in, whereas Emma can transact in all entities. So that's a big difference there. The other piece is we are menu driven, and again, making it easy for you to learn and to ramp, many different ways for you to navigate. You'll see me navigate multiple ways today. The easiest way is really to just look at the menus. So you've got the drop down menus. I've selected dashboards here, and I can just move right into a controller dashboard just by clicking on that option. So again, just remembering that that's one way to navigate. I have many others. I can star options and create my own favorites menu. I can also use a bookmarked menu over here. So just a great way for you to get acclimated and see how easy it is for you to navigate and move around. So the one piece that we talked about first was the dashboarding, and I have lots of dashboards. If I come back to my dashboard screen, you can see I have a lot of dashboards. I have a lot of role-based dashboards here. My role-based dashboards, you'll recognize AP Manager, AR Manager. I also have some dashboards that are more functional, like an end-of-month dashboard or perhaps a workflow approval dashboard. We're going to start out here by looking at the controller dashboard. This is one that contains a lot of financial information, and this gives me a view of how my organization is tracking. as I mentioned earlier, remember we're doing a consolidation all the time. So it's a continuous consolidation. Remember that I have multiple entities here. So I have 5 entities that I'm managing in this one instance of Sage Intacct. So when I open up my dashboard, I see that I've got some boxes here at the top. These are key performance indicators. They also, in some cases, have visual indicators, which tells you immediately by color how things are tracking. But you also notice that I have $52,000 here in expenses. This 52,000, all of these numbers are a consolidation across all 5 entities. So if I wanted to, as a controller, I could use my dashboard filters and I could filter this down to just one particular entity. And what's going to happen now is the dashboard is going to represent itself filtered just on the Texas entity. And you'll notice that 52,000 went to 33,000. So as you look at this data, you can slice and dice it by those dimensions that I talked about earlier. So I have the capability to do that by location or by vendor or by item. I can have up to 3 different levels or 3 different dimensions that I am filtering by. So let's come back to our consolidated view. And perhaps I'm interested to know where this $52,000 is coming from. I can see here that I'm comparing it to the previous month. And I can also see exactly where I am, tracking over from the previous month. I can drill into that. So here in office supplies, I can see that I am quite a bit over from the previous month. And any of these transactions, as it drops me into the general ledger, I can see the detail on. So now I'm drilling into that AP bill. This is a bill coming from American Express. I can see that it has not been paid. I can also come in and look at the attachment. So I can see any attachments, any pictures or documents that have been attached to the transaction. And I can also see how the transaction was coded. Now here's where those dimensions come into play as well. I've coded it to the office supply account. However, I've also tagged it to a specific department and a specific facility. So facility in my terms is the same thing as location. Now, understanding that I could have other information here that I could drill into, including other dimensions. So if I was buying this material for a particular project, and I was a project-driven organization. Project is another one of our dimensions. If I was utilizing our inventory subscription, I may want to say what warehouse I'm buying this material for. So another dimension. You might notice that I've tagged this to Emma because employee is a dimension as well. So let's just say that you're trying to track expenses by employee. You can certainly do that because employee is a dimension that you can tag to. One of the other things that I'll point out down here at the bottom is allocations. So many times in organizations where you have multiple facilities, sometimes you want to take a cost that comes in through an AP bill and you want to split that out. You want to allocate it across all of your entities. As an example, you might get a bill in from your professional services, from your attorney, and you may want to take that bill that's $5,000 and split it and give everyone their fair share. You can set up allocation rules, and Intacct can, in fact, split that for you automatically based on the rule that you set up in the allocation template. So being able to drill down into that transaction is going to give you all the detail that you need to know without having to go and dig in the filing cabinet or call someone in the accounts payable department. All of these other key performance indicators have drill down the same way, so you can drill down to that source transaction. Continuing on with the dashboard here, remembering that I am the controller, things that are important to me are primarily financial reports. So I have a profit and loss by entity. I have a profit and loss that's showing me actual versus budget. And I also have some other types of components. Before we get to those, let's take a look at some of the reporting that we know is going to be something that we want on our dashboard. As the controller, I'm interested to know what my profit and loss looks like. And when I look at this, I can see that each one of my columns is one of my facilities. So I've designed this P&L report to have columns so I can see each one of my facilities, and then I have an all facilities column at the end. I design the rows and the columns when I create this report. I also have drill down capability. In fact, anything that you see in blue today is hyperlinked so you can drill into the detail. So if I open up revenue, I can see that revenue is broken out actually into 3 different buckets, into private insurance, public insurance, and private pay. Again, each one of these allows me to drill in and see the detail. So if I'm looking here, I can drill into the revenue here, and I can see that this is coming in from a journal entry, and this is revenue that's probably been driven by an integration from a billing system. So this gives me all the detail that I need right here at my fingertips. What I also have the ability to do is to come back and to say, okay, maybe I want to look at this information differently. Maybe I want to look at it by a specific location or a location grouping. So now when we execute this report, we have the ability to come up here to a filter screen. And now I can say, I want to execute this as of a certain date, within a certain department, or within a certain facility. So now what I could say is I want to group some of my facilities together. So perhaps in those 5 facilities that I have, some of them are assisted care, some of them are non-assisted care. Maybe I want to group the assisted care ones together. So this gives me a way to individually see those facilities or to group them together. You can see that I've got assisted care, I've got memory care, and I've got skilled care. And then I've got additionally the individual entities, and then within those entities, I can also have locations. So there is some hierarchy here. So when you think about how do you want to report, you have the option to start out at a very high level or to go to a very granular level. So when I chose Texas, within Texas, I have 2 facilities. I have 2 locations. One is Dallas and one is Riverside. So now I can see how each one of them is performing, but I can also see them together as a group. So being able to look at the data and to filter is all because of those dimensions that we are talking about and how we're tagging our transactions to those dimensions. If we wanted to come in and take a look at how easy the financial report writer is to use, it's all in English. It's all driven toward a business user being able to set up reports. Remember that you can duplicate reports. There's a full audit trail. So any changes that get made to the format of the report are captured in the audit trail. You'll use these 8 steps to either maintain or create a new report. You'll control the rows and the columns, and the rows are defined by account groups. Very easy for you to come in and change the report just by adding an account group to that format. And when you add that account group, it creates the rows immediately to expand that report for you. You can change the level of detail, and changing the level of detail says, I want to utilize the dimensions to do that. So let's change this report and let's show the customers here on this report. And now what we're going to see is we're going to see that same report, but we're going to see the customers or patients, if you will, that are generating that revenue. So whether you're looking at, in this case, we're looking at a combination of providers like our health insurance providers, and we're looking at individual private pay. So now we see that detail here under revenue. So we know where the money's coming from. We know where that revenue is being generated. So just being able to take this data and filter the data out is, again, all because of dimensions. When we move down and we take a look at actual versus budget, being able to set up a budget, to have multiple budgets, and then to be able to highlight areas of concern, areas that maybe you want to understand a little bit more about what's going on. That's all done within the financial reporting, and it's done based on how you set up and configure that report. Of course, you can have graphs and visual representations here. Here's our cash balance trend, so we can see how we're trending across our different months. We also can set up quick reports around expense summaries, so maybe we want to filter this by department. We also have some other components here on the left-hand side, our checklist, where we've set up some checklists. We've assigned some tasks and activities to folks. They will get an email letting them know that they have something that needs to be taken care of. We've also got a great visual here that tells me what applications have been closed in what organizations. So I don't have to ask anyone. This is going to keep track of it for me and post it here on my dashboard. So this is one view of a dashboard. This is the controller view, but as I mentioned, you can create as many dashboards as you choose to. So when we look at more functional types of dashboards, this is one that I created for an end of month. And this has everything on it that you would need to review or look at as part of your end of month process. Another type of dashboard that you might want to look at is one that incorporates those operational details. So some sample dashboards here that I would share with you. Let's say you're a dental practice and you have multiple dentists working, and you're really interested in some of the operational data and how that relates to the financial data. So what we've done here is we've broken out our revenue. We've now taken that revenue and we've looked at the number of treatments that we've done. A number of treatments could possibly come from your billing solution. So we pick up the number of treatments. We do that through a statistical account. And then we do the math to come up with revenue per treatment. We've also taken our statistical account for number of dentists, and then we've calculated revenue per dentist. We've picked up the number of visits and we've picked up the number of new patient visits. We've picked that up again from that operational data. When we start to look at this information, we can now look at all the financial information, but we can start to look at some other information that maybe we want to see in a visual representation, like the payer mix. How is payment occurring? Is more of it coming in through private insurance, or is it private pay, or is it public insurance? So now we can see that. We can also see and track our patient visits. Rather than just giving you the numbers, many times it's easier for people to absorb and engage with the data when it's in color and when it's in a visual format. So that's an example of a dental group. I also have a sample for skilled nursing. So perhaps now we're looking at revenue per caregiver. So how many caregivers do I have and how much revenue is the caregiver generating? And then if you look at my report here, I've done some calculations within my report to come up with patient reported data. So I have the revenue here. And if you'll notice, I have it by facility. So when I design this report, it's important for me to know how each facility is performing. This is basically the state of the union of how the organization is tracking. Why is Dallas so much farther ahead than what Riverside is in the Texas grouping of facilities. So this gives me the information that I need, and I can drill into any of this information, and I can really understand at my fingertips what's going on from a financial perspective. So one of the things that we talked about was having other kinds of reports and having a report center. So here is our report center. We have financial reports, we have financial graphs, we can have some custom reports. We certainly can have reports that we have designed as our favorites. Our financial reports can be grouped together by report type or by report audience. All of these financial reports can be run on demand, so you can run them anytime you choose to. You can also push them out to a CSV format, so you can export them. You can create the PDF of that report. You can also set that report up on a schedule so that it runs unattended in the background with a start and end date, a frequency, and a delivery list. It can be a single report. It can be a group of reports. So you can set up a report packet for perhaps the stakeholders that you want to give them all of these reports at the end of the month, so you can certainly do that. These reports are ones that we have defined, but again, remember, you can take any of these reports, copy them, and create your own. You'll start out with some predefined dashboards, and again, those can be your samples or your baseline for building out dashboards and reports. Our next area that we want to move to is to talk just a little bit about um, the foundational components. And many of those are things that you will define initially. So how many entities do you have and what are those entities? So defining those entities is done here in the company section in the setup area. And you'll notice here are my 5 entities that I've set up. What's also important to note is that if you are multi-entity and you need to do inter-entity transactions, we have the ability to do that. It's a configuration. So it's not an additional piece of software, it is configuration. So if you want to have us create those inter-entity journal entries automatically for you, you will activate and configure inter-entity and use the inter-entity account mapping in order to set up those relationships. That way, you don't have to create the journal entries. We will do that for you. I've reverted back to my company overview map. Every one of our applications has one of these. It's another way for you to navigate. And within some of that foundational area, this is also where you will come in and subscribe to specific applications. And then after you've subscribed to them, you will want to configure them. Excuse me. And configuring them is what personalizes those applications to how you want to use them. So the flexibility is there for you to turn on, turn off functionality, to set up workflow within an application, or as an example, here in accounts receivable, you have the ability to set up your aging buckets. So when you look at your aging report, you may want to have certain buckets of how you are doing your aging. And that is something that you can do right here in accounts receivable setup. So here are your different aging buckets. You can have up to 3 of those and then be able to choose at report time which aging period bucket you want to use. So each one of our applications you'll configure. And again, this is what allows you to configure Sage Intacct to work the way you want it to work. If we come back to that company area, you'll notice this is where you'll do your setup for your checklist and your assignments. This is also where you would set up any of your users. Here in the administration area, you'll set up an admin and you'll also set up all of your users And your users will have permissions and roles granted to them, and then they will also be able to set up their preferences. So setting up their preferences allows them to choose how they want the software to work for them, what they want their menus to look like, how they want to log on, where they want to start when they log on, how they want to get their emails. Are they part of the approval process? So this allows you again to set up your users. When new users need to be added, you will have control of that. There's no need for you to come back to Sage Intacct. Also in that company area, we'll talk a little bit ahead of schedule around integrations, because this is really, when I talked about integrations, I said that you could have integrations that were automated or semi-automated. So semi-automated, I talked about a CSV upload where you would push a button to execute that data to be uploaded. To help with that, we've done a lot of the heavy lifting because we have created templates that are predefined, and you can use these predefined templates in order to populate them and then upload data. So let's come down and pull up the general ledger journal entry template, and this will give you a good idea of what one of those templates looks like. This is really creating the file format. So if you're a somewhat technical person, file format is the format of the file that you are going to upload. And what we've done with this format is to tell you each field that needs to be defined and have told you the characteristics of that field. So as an example, the date field is one that you need to populate. It tells you how big it is. It's up to 24 characters. And it also tells you that it is required. So anything that is required, the next column, reverse date, as you can see, is not required. Anything that's required needs to be populated. Now, this file format is going to include all of the fields that you would expect. It's also going to include dimensional information. So when you think about the dimensions that you're going to use, like customer, vendor, item, you're going to be able to tag your transactions to all of those dimensions. So when you're moving data into Sage Intacct, you want to make sure that it has that dimensional data in the file format. So we give you this baseline. This is a lot of what you will need, and then you'll take this and personalize it, update it, populate it, and then you'll use this as your format for uploading information into Sage Intacct. So that's what that CSV upload is all about. And we've done many of these. So you can see in this listing, we have a lot of those templates created. This is also the company setup checklist where you can configure the applications from here as well. So a couple of different places that you can get to that. So again, in this company section, this is much of the foundation that you're going to be defining. Now, we've talked a lot about dimensions. Where are these dimensions housed? Well, they're here in the setup area of reporting. And in this middle column, you can see classes down to warehouses. These are the dimensions that are in play and active in my environment. Remember that I said you have 12 predefined. 5 of those are based on subscription. So projects and tasks and warehouses I have because I have subscribed to inventory and projects. So standard ones that you'll have with core are classes, customers, departments, employees. This is actually locations, and I changed the description to be facilities because that makes more sense for me. Items and vendors. So that gives me my predefined dimensions, and then I can define these dimensions here. So here are all of my departments. Very easy to add another department. So if 6 months in, 8 months in, you want to create a new department, it's as easy as clicking on add and adding that information in, and then it's immediately available to you. In many cases, you can create groups. So remember, I said you could have groups of facilities. You can have groups of departments as well. So being able to look at these dimensions to change the descriptor is very easy to do. And that is done over here in General Ledger, in, pardon me, company, in setting up and looking at your terminology. So here you can set up your terminology. You can change things like I've changed customer. I've changed that to customer or payer, or maybe you want to change that to patient instead of customer. You can certainly do that. And then if you change your mind and want to go back to the default, it's as easy as flipping a switch. So terminology, important, because that makes it easy for everyone in your organization to really get acclimated to a new solution. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is flexible and configurable business processes. And I want to do that just by showing you a business process around managing your cost and your spend. Many times people are using purchasing, they're issuing purchase orders for specific materials. And in other organizations, maybe you're not using purchasing, you're just doing everything through accounts payable. Either way, you have the option to do one or the other, or you can use a hybrid, issue purchase orders for some things and just run everything through AP for other things. It's up to you. Both are available, and both processes have pre-approval workflow that is included. So if you want to have approvals along the way, you can certainly do that. One of the best business practices that we deliver is this one here in purchasing. On the purchasing overview map, you can see starting out in the middle swim lane here, where we start with a requisition, we move to a purchase order, receive a shipment, and then receive the vendor invoice. These are the steps in the process, and they're automated, so you're not rekeying information in across each one of these steps. Now, these steps may be done by different people in your organization. As an example, remember Nikki, my employee over here, Nikki has the ability to only enter certain types of transactions. She can enter a purchase requisition, but she can't enter a purchase order. So sometimes it's a matter of you deciding, maybe a department manager enters a requisition and submits that for approval before the purchase order actually gets executed. So you decide how you want this to work, who has access to what specific steps within an application. Now, if you choose not to use purchasing, that's perfectly fine. You can start your whole process over here in accounts payable. And again, every application has one of those process maps. So now you can see, you could use this business process where you enter a bill, send it out for approval, select it for payment, maybe go through a second approval before you print the check. You may not be printing checks. You may be doing that through ACH, and that's perfectly fine. We do that as well. What I'd like to say, though, is if you look at the detail that we are capturing along the way, let me just share with you a transaction that has already been through all of those steps from purchasing all the way to payment. If we look at this transaction, we see that this is a vendor invoice. This is for some material that I have purchased here. And I also see that I have a history tab, and this history tab tracks every step in the process. So following that automated process, this started out as a purchase order. I received the material in, and then I got the vendor invoice. Each one of those steps is user date and time stamped, so I have a full audit trail, and I can drill into any step in the process. So if I'm talking to the vendor, I can say, yes, I did get your invoice. I have it, and it's set up to be paid on the 12th of October. If I'm the accounting person, and I want to know the information about where these transactions got posted, I have the posting details. So now I can see not only the debits and credits and where they got posted, I can drill into the journal and I can see that information right here at my fingertips. I've got that history tab that we just looked at, and I've also got the payment details. So how easy would it be if I was talking to the vendor and the vendor said, I'm calling to see if you have paid our invoice. I have those details. I can drill into that. I can tell you when it was paid. I can tell you the check number. All the information is right here at my fingertips. So this is the kind of drill down that is available to you. I would tell you this quick fun fact. For every 12 filing cabinets that you have, you can eliminate one person. So it takes one person to manage 12 filing cabinets. Think about all the documents that you're filing today. And if you didn't have to get up and go to the filing cabinet to look for things, if you had everything at your fingertips, think how more efficient your office staff would be, and think how much happier they would be if they didn't have to go and dig in the filing cabinet. So understanding those business processes is really about just understanding how we can work smarter instead of harder, how we can automate this process and give you that visibility. So whether you use purchasing or accounts payable, those processes are there for you to enhance and define. So that's what I had to show you in the software today. Before we finish up, I want to share a couple of other items with you around customer stories. We have two customer stories here. One is from the Banyan Treatment Center, and this was an interesting story because they really were all about getting a solution that would give them better visibility. And we just looked at some of that visibility when we looked at being able to see things at your fingertip and being more efficient as opposed to getting up and having to dig in the filing cabinet every time you needed to answer a question, or telling someone you'd have to get back to them and do those callbacks. So Banyan took advantage of those automated processes. They had some true benefits gained, a 40% decrease in their monthly close. They were able to close much, much faster. They reduced their financial software total cost of ownership by $300,000. So moving from an on-premise solution to a best-in-class financial management solution, integrating in information and having visibility. Our second customer here is Ventura Orthopedics. So what was most important to them was looking at the different facilities that they had. So a lot of orthopedic offices have multiple locations, and that was the case here. They wanted to make sure that utilizing space appropriately was something that they wanted to incorporate in their decision processes for looking at other real estate locations. Now they can look at the numbers of visits that are occurring at a particular location. They can look at revenue per square foot, and they can see how they're tracking location by location. They had some challenges. They were currently using Sage 300, and it really didn't give them the reporting that they needed across all of those different locations. Again, some benefits that they got: 50 hours freed alone on finance work. I think about that consolidated dashboard. That consolidated dashboard that I showed you, if you don't have a solution like Sage Intacct, could take you as much as 40 hours to pull that together at the end of the month. To take data from all those locations and to pull it together into a consolidated view manually is a very time-consuming activity. I don't have to do that with Sage Intacct. The minute I open that dashboard, I saved you 40 hours. That could be the 50 hours that they saved right here. 25% growth without adding headcount. So how can you do more with the same amount of people that you have today? How can you continue to grow? And all of this visibility. You cannot measure if you can't see what's going on. You have no way to be accountable if you can't see it. So having that visibility is very, very important. And remember, this is a solution that is available to you 24/7, 365. So you always have access to your information. You will never be in the dark with Sage Intacct. I want to thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. I know this is a big effort for you to carve out time to attend our session. If you have other questions, if you want to learn more about Sage Intacct, please don't hesitate to contact myself, or if you're currently engaged with a Sage Intacct representative, make sure to reach back to them. Thanks, and I hope you have a great day.